Hey, welcome to High-Octane Truth number 8. This week we saw the automobile companies fall all over themselves trying to tout their sales for November. They were all flat, but as the automakers pointed out, flat to slight increases. As the automakers pointed out, November of 2014 was so smoking hot that these numbers were still up, and all the manufacturers got to say, or most of them anyway, got to say, oh yeah, we were up again. But the reality is there's a stench of inevitability about this that is unmistakable to me. We're running on subprime loans, thanks to FCA, since you're the biggest proponent of that. We've got long-term financing, which I call death financing, which is 72 months when people wake up and realize 3 years in that they are screwed. Everyone says leasing is, big. Leasing in this market is dominant, but in other parts of the country it isn't, but leasing is up. The reality for this, though, is I think we have reached the peak. And other analysts share my view. Of course, there are others that say, oh, no, this is going on forever. Well, guess what? The automobile business is the most cyclical business, or one of them that I can think of. This doesn't last forever. These cycles last about 7 or 8 years, and then the slowdown hits. Now, some people say, these car companies are better prepared for this. If the inevitable happens, I'm not so sure. As I've stated in previous episodes, Fiat Chrysler is not prepared for a downturn at all. They have nothing to fall back on. If the heat comes out of Jeep or softens big time on Ram, they're in deep trouble. I expect Sergio to be forced to make a deal. I've said that for months, and I'm going to stick to it, and that's exactly what's going to happen. But, I have noticed that even hardened industry veterans, analysts, are starting to soften their usual braggadocio by putting qualifiers on their predictions, suggesting that they're optimistic and hopeful that this will continue, instead of absolutely saying, yes, this is going to go through 2016. The most bullish of the analysts say this latest strong run, this 18 million plus SAR is going to last throughout 16 and into 17. I disagree. I'm talking to some inside industry people. Audi, for instance, the dealers are a little worried because they're having trouble getting the grosses that they need. The profitability is being eaten up by these incentives, and these incentives are massive. What started out as a domestic, and Toyota, who so wants to be a domestic sales tool, has now spread throughout the industry. You go to every major luxury manufacturer that does business in the US, go to their websites, you can see the deals. They're there. They have fallen into this trap. Now, they say, well, it's just the cost of doing marketing. To a point. It's the cost of doing marketing for the mainstream car companies. But the luxury automakers are doing a dangerous dance right now, because at some point, they start to degrade their image. And as a whole for the industry, you do enough of these incentives long enough, then you start destroying the used car value, the residual value of these cars. This doesn't last forever, folks. We are at the peak right now. I'd like to say it's going to go on forever, but it's really annoying when I read some of the reporters who should know better, who keep regurgitating the most optimistic statements. I mean, they have to understand that they're dancing with the devil by doing it. The harsh reality for me, of observing years of ups and downs in this business, has taught me that people out there should know better by now. They should be wary, very wary, because the moment that the thought enters in these executives' heads that this might go on forever, is the moment exact moment that the inevitable slide begins in earnest. I mean, but let's face it, these executives love to hear themselves talk. They love to hear, the dulcet tones of their own thought balloons. And, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear a discouraging word. But I'll be happy to give it to them, because they should be battening down the hatches right now and trying to decide what they're going to do when the slowdown happens. Are some of these car companies better prepared? Sure. A couple of bankruptcies will do that for you. But again, I think most people are just, they're still on a rush from the euphoric highs of these big numbers and these big profits. But I guarantee you the lows are going to be stomach churning and devastating to some of these companies. So that all of this is lost upon too many people immersed in this business is at the very least unfathomable, and more to the point, frankly, simply inexcusable. Make no mistake, this slowdown is coming, and it threatens to be ugly, just as they are every time it happens. It's not an easy slowdown. It's usually ugly, and it usually lasts a long time. And that's what's going to happen this time. I think it's going to happen. Now, I would say really start to hit at the late summer, fall of 16. So enough about that. Let's see, what else? Well, Porsche announced some, let's say, aggressive pricing on their new 2017 911 Turbo and Turbo S models. Speaking of reaching a peak, Porsche has decided that they are going to step into the luxury stratosphere. The 911 Turbo S Cabriolet base price is $200,000. Once upon a time, any of the 911 iterations, even the Turbo way back in, were affordable, or at least somewhat affordable if you squinted real hard and you held your breath and rationalized it. You say, I gotta have one, and it works for me. Now Porsche has elevated themselves to the point where it's a different company. Yeah, I get it. They sell more SUVs than sports cars, and those SUVs propel their profitability, their R&D, their racing, everything. But now Porsche has ascended to this stratosphere that obviously it has nothing to do with the hardcore 911 enthusiasts out there. Nothing. Because the 911 has nothing to do with the original essence of the 911. The current 911 is a big car. It's a big luxury car almost, with predominantly automatic transmissions. The people who are buying them, yeah, maybe a few might understand what they're buying and understand the heritage of the company, but for the most part, I don't see it. 911s I see being driven around in this area. Those people clearly don't have a clue what they're doing. They just think they should be driving it. So we're seeing a seminal shift in what Porsche represents to a lot of people. Now, to the hardcore 911 buyers, they do have to squint real hard and accept the fact that they're buying what isn't really a 911. And for the older Porsche enthusiasts who love 911s, the current 911 just, it doesn't speak to them at all. It's not, it's just not a 911. So it's a shift. The 911 stopped being a 911 years ago, and that's too bad. And now it's no secret that hardcore Porsche driving enthusiasts who, still are true believers of the brand, true believers of the heritage, true believers of of the company story, how it came about, all the racing victories and everything else like that. They're looking at the Cayman because the Cayman, no, it isn't like the old time 911s that hardcore 911 enthusiasts love, but it's the closest thing to it. The 911 is not it anymore. So this is an interesting thing. This is a major shift. You know, we've seen Porsche sort of transition from this little boutique car company that built really cool street cars and then raced them and won. You know, yeah, that Porsche's been dead a long time. With the Cayenne and the Macan and the Panamera, Porsche is a money-making machine. So enthusiasts have to pick and choose what Porsche they want to be a part of. But I can tell you that the new turbo prices, you know, it's just hard to shift your mind into a gear that says, oh, well, you should look at them like you're getting a Ferrari or a Lamborghini Gallardo or something. It doesn't work for me. That's never what Porsche has been about. But, you know, time moves on, things change. I guess as long as it came in and there are true driver's Porsches available, I guess we should be thankful that the option still exists because, wow, it's just staggering prices. Let's see what else. Oh, the new Volvo S90 luxury sedan was introduced, and here's what they said about it. It's a bold entry into the luxury sedan market and sets a new standard with superior materials, technology, comfort, and class-leading semi-autonomous features. What do we say about it? Well, we're quite sure you can read all about it elsewhere, but us, we have less than zero interest in it. So we have a picture on the site, but that's all you're ever going to read about it. We just don't care. And then I'm going to close out this week. I mean, the news that people are creating a racing series based around driverless, autonomous robot racing machines. I think the sport of racing has finally reached the end. I mean, this tops everything. I mean, Formula One's a mess. The US Grand Prix is going to go down. The Circuit of the Americas is going to go down. It's an asterisk on the 2016 Formula One calendar. Believe me, there won't be a US Grand Prix in Texas in 2016. There are major problems down there, and Bernie isn't helping. So, okay, there's that. IndyCar racing should have the biggest year they've had in years with the 100th anniversary of the running of the Indy 500 and the return to Road America. But frankly, beyond those two races, and okay, they're going to run at Boston, and that'll be all great for, this is the typical pattern for these IndyCar races, street races. They go to a new city, it's all great, wonderful, and then by the third year, it's like these cities can't wait for it to not come back. So Boston might be a little jewel for a year or two, and then it's going to go away. So Indy has the Indy 500 and Road America. That's not enough to sustain the series. I appreciate all the drivers, the crews, the teams. I love watching them, but if they don't get more diversity of thought on that starting grid, Indy is going to continue to slide down. NASCAR, I've said all there is to say about NASCAR. I'd like to congratulate Kyle Busch, the immensely talented young guy who pretty much against all odds came through to take the Sprint Cup this year. So congratulations to him and his wife and his Joe Gibbs Racing team. He deserves it. It's been a hell of a year. But I have nothing more to say. If you want to know what I really think about NASCAR, go watch High-Octane Truth #6, and that pretty much says it all. And then sports car racing, where do I begin? It's unfortunate that the road racing enthusiasts in this country have to be at the mercy of the FIA and the ACO and the France family controlling road racing in this country. It's, you know, it's unfortunate. 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 It's unfortun you know, as I said in my column in Fumes, road racing enthusiasts continue to get what they don't deserve. It's a mess. It's a balance of a performance nightmare. It's you know, smattering of prototypes here and there, and the refusal to accept the fact that all GT series in this country, a premier GT road racing series, would be a bigger draw is just, I just don't get it. But again, nothing, and I mean nothing, tops the news last week that a new series will debut, running in conjunction with the Formula E races, called Roborace, which will feature 10 teams of all electric driverless cars, if you can imagine, competing against each other. Really? And here I thought Formula E was glorified slot car racing, but at least the drivers have to steer and use their brake and accelerator pedal and drive the cars. So I've done a shift on that. I can see they're trying, they're racing, it's good. But this, you have to be freaking kidding me. Ironically and not surprisingly, you know, Roborace is, you know, being embraced by the FIA. Again, why the FIA is the arbiter of racing for the world is beyond me. Their sell-by date passed about 20 years ago. These guys are bumbling fools. So here's what they say about it. Roborace is an open challenge to the most innovative scientific and technology-focused companies in the world. And it is very exciting to create a platform for them to showcase what they are capable of. That's what the head of the Formula E said. You know, look, it's common knowledge that the modern day Formula One cars can be programmed to run on any race course in the world. And so can all the other top-notch race cars in the world, because they have simulators and they can program these cars to run without a driver. Does anyone want to really see that other than in the lab when they're trying to, you know, figure out their suspension settings for the next race? No. Now, here's the deal about racing. At the end of the day, racing isn't about technology. It's not about aerodynamics. It's not the electrification of this or the hybrid of that. Racing is a very human endeavor. It's about persevering against all odds, about sacrificing everything, at times devastatingly so, for a level of success that few will ever achieve or even have the opportunity to even attempt. It's about immensely talented people willing themselves to the outer limits of physical and mental capability, both on and off the track. It's crushing disappointment, punctuated by fleeting moments of absolute elation. It's runaway emotions, fuel-injected tempers, outsized personalities, and the rawest definition of blood, sweat, and far too many tears. In short, racing is one of the most gloriously flawed and achingly difficult endeavors that we as humans can participate in on this planet. As for Roborace, it's insanity writ large and a flat-out insult to everyone who has participated in the sport in the past and who participated in it now. It's just the end for me. It's just infuriating. That's the High-Octane Truth for this week. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Take care.